Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and this is what I call my morning musings. Well, as promised, I want to begin an examination today of this whole concept. You know, here we are, September the 2nd, and according to some of these so-called prophecy experts, September is the time of the end. Although, according to some reports, Mr. Jonathan Cahn, who wrote the book, The Mystery of the Shemitah, and has caused so much of the prophetic paranoia and the excitement, guess what he's doing now? He is saying, well, hey, if nothing at all happens, it means nothing at all. Really? You set off nationwide, almost worldwide paranoia, fear and excitement that this is it. You talk about all the great alignment of all of the signs. And then you start hedging and you say, well, you know, hey, if nothing happens, no big deal. Really? No, I'm sorry. Your calculations and your pontifications, to use that term, have pointed directly to September 2015, and everyone knows that. To begin hedging now and to start saying, oh, well, I've never really said anything's definitely going to happen, then what's the point? Well, all of that aside, I want to begin looking at this. What in the world is the Shemitah? Well, the Shemitah is the Hebrew, and it's taken from the Old Covenant concept that in Israel's calendar, every seventh year was a Sabbath year. According to Leviticus chapter 23, in the Sabbath year, the land was not to be farmed. Pardon me. They were not to do any work in their vineyards, their orchards. The land was supposed to lie fallow. Then, at the very end of the seventh year, on the 29th of Elul, the last day of the last month of the year, all debt was supposed to be canceled. Wow, isn't that incredible? Every debtor is supposed to wipe the slate clean. And every person, you know, if a person had sold his property and it was his inheritance, guess what? He was supposed to get it back. That's why they could only sell the land for 6 years. Because every seventh year, they're supposed to get it back. On and on and on it goes. Well, Israel never kept the Shemitah. So far as we know, as a matter of fact, it's one of the main reasons, according to Ezekiel chapter 20, that Jerusalem was destroyed in 586 BC because she failed to keep her Sabbaths. Okay. Mr. Cahn extrapolates from that and says that applies to America. However, he makes a fatal admission. On page 55 of his book, chapter 7, he says, in its first and original context, the Shemitah is connected to Israel. It is the only nation commanded to observe it. Then on the very next page, he says, however, seeking to find a way to justify his sensationalistic theory, he says such a prophetic sign could be given to any nation as long as that nation in some way matched the description or shared the attributes of ancient Israel in 586 BC. That, ladies and gentlemen, is completely, utterly false to the core. Listen to me very carefully. In the ancient world, Sabbath, any kind of Sabbath, was completely unknown outside of Israel. As D.A. Carson, N.T. Wright, Richard Bauckham, and a host of scholars have noted, the very idea of a Sabbath rest was completely foreign in the ancient world. So that means that Mr. Cahn's claim that any nation was subject to the Shemitah, or that the Shemitah could be applied to any nation, is completely and totally false. Furthermore, point number 2, in Psalms 147, 19 and 20, the Lord said to Israel, I gave my commandments, my judgments, my statutes and commandments to you. I did not do so to any, pardon me, any other nation. Do you catch the power of that? God said, my Torah is for you, Israel. Furthermore, point number 3, in regard to the Sabbath. Deuteronomy 5 and verse 15, the Lord said, I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of bondage. Therefore, I gave you the Sabbath as a sign between me and you. You see, all of Israel's Sabbaths was a distinctive covenant sign between Yahweh and Israel as a reminder of their deliverance from bondage and oppression. That could not be true of any other nation. So, on page 55 and 56 of The Mystery of the Shemitah, Mr. Jonathan Cahn has completely falsified his own theory. He tries to escape it, but biblically he cannot escape it. He is simply false to say that the Shemitah could be applied by Yahweh to any other nation. God did not give the Shemitah to any other nation. Folks, it is so critical to understand how important understanding the end of the law of Moses really is. We'll talk about that in our next. So you need to get my book, From Torah to Telos, The End of the Law of Moses. Go to my website, eschatology.org, bibleprophecy.com, order the book, make me a note saying that you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll refund your shipping. No, I do not discuss the mystery of the Shemitah specifically in this book. However, what I do discuss in this book will equip you to see immediately how false Jonathan Cahn is in his book, The Mystery of the Shemitah. Get my book, Torah to Telos. You'll be glad you did. Hey, thanks for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. Lord willing, we'll see you on the flip side.